Hello and welcome to the IPPS-A Sustainment webinar series. Today's webinar is on IPPS-A Roles in ACT. My name is Captain Marisha McLean and I am your moderator and primary speaker for today's webinar. I work on the Training and Sustainment team here at IPPS-A and I am excited to be hosting this session today. Before we begin, I have a few housekeeping items to cover about this presentation and the DCS webinar platform. First, today's webinar is being recorded and will be available on demand on the IPPS-A YouTube channel. If your DCS connection drops during the webinar, please close your browser and use the DCS link to reconnect. Next, please keep your microphones and phone lines on mute throughout the formal instruction portion. We have allotted time for questions and comments from the audience throughout the webinar, with the main Q&A block at the end of the presentation. If you have a question for our speaker during instruction, please post it to the public chat panel so that we can answer posted questions throughout the session. All questions and their corresponding answers will be posted with this video to the IPPS-A YouTube channel. Your questions and feedback matter, so please share. Without further ado, let's begin. Today I'm joined by Captain Kristen Hitter, an IPPS-A subject matter expert on IPPS-A roles and provisioning. You will hear from her throughout the roles portion of the webinar. Following IPPS-A roles, I will provide an orientation to Release 2 ACT, which will include a brief assignment creation demo at the end. We're going to start with access controls and provisioning blocks. IPPS-A functionality is separated into roles. Subcats are predefined bundles of those roles, and they make up the and they ensure the access control is easier to manage. IPPS-A access is managed by users who have the validator or validator admin subcat. Based on operational needs, validators are responsible for putting access controls in place to regulate what their user pool can view and edit. Understanding provisioning blocks means that validators must understand how the subcats or blocks can be combined and then managed on an individual role basis to control their soldiers' access. Because IPPS-A as a program cannot dictate what roles or subcats should be assigned to its users, it is up to the states to create an access control SOP that identifies what subcats or individual roles should be attached to each user based on their operational needs. For example, a 10-level Battalion S1 clerk may not need the same access roles as their Battalion S1 NCOIC, but it's up to the state to establish that SOP that clarifies the access controls for their organizations. On this slide, the statements highlighted in gold are simple rules that states should follow while creating their SOP and during the assessment of those roles, their SOP. This slide displays all the subcats that are available right now in Release 2. Black blocks represent the two base system access subcats that users are hired into. Please note that there are 4 types of POI, Person of Interest subcats, for non-Army National Guard users. This includes sister service member, contractor, government civilian, and foreign national. Gray sustainment blocks are generally only available for IPPS-A program managers. So this leaves the blue, amber, and green blocks for state level provisioning. The lighter colored blocks are dependent blocks. These blocks are hidden until another prerequisite block is provisioned for that user. So in this example, if you look at the HR Pro and the HR Pro Plus blocks on the left side of this diagram, the user cannot get HR Pro Plus until they get HR Pro. And that stands for all of the darker shaded blocks with their associated lighter shaded blocks. Subcats are bundles of roles. This is just to reiterate. All the roles associated with a subcat can be individually deselected based on that user's operational needs. In this example, you see the casualty manager Subcat. Underneath is the casualty federal role. So in this example, this user does not need that functionality in order to operate as a casualty manager in his assigned position, his or her assigned position. So that field is unchecked. This is the level of access control that we're asking that validators need to be managing for their population. Now, this slide displays how subcats can be combined. In this example, the user starts off as either a POI, person of interest, or a member. They are first given the HR Pro subcat, and then due to their operational needs, are also given the HR Pro Plus subcat. This is visible in all four examples. What is also shown is that users can stack additional subcats and manage their associated roles within them. So in the bottom left of the screen, you see that this member was hired as a member, then given the HR Pro subcat, subsequently given the HR Pro Plus subcat, but then also given compliance specialist. Now, all the roles associated with those subcats, this user may not need, but this is just a visual representation of how you can stack these provisioning blocks to get what your users need to do in order to do their daily functions. One thing of note is that there are currently no limitations on how many roles a user can have. The only caveat is that users should only be provisioned for what they need. Validators are responsible for managing roles and subcats for their user pool. And so I'm going to take a moment now to see if there's any questions or comments from the audience concerning roles and provisions before we go into a quick demo on how to navigate to roles resources. Is that a hot mic, or does someone have a question or comment?
Hey, this is Chief Brown. Real quick comment. Always remember to keep member role and the POI role. Don't ever delete those. Always build on top. That's kind of why it shows as Lego blocks. Secondly, if you try to give combinations of roles and any of those combinations have a read-only combination, then it will always take precedence over the other permission and eliminate them from doing actions. So pay attention to how you give the roles, what you do with them. That may cause some confusion when you're trying to get provisioning. If you include read-only positions, then they take precedence over the other position parts in those roles. And that's it.
Absolutely. Thank you for that, Chief. Thanks for that, Chief. Does anyone else have any questions or comments concerning roles thus far? Okay, so we're going to go into a quick demo on how to navigate to the resources that are available for roles and subcats. And so I'm going to not necessarily pause, but set that up real quick.
Address the comment there.
Subcats negate some of the functions of their category. So I think what he's alluding to there is that when you do have the view-only role in a subcat, that you have in another subcat some.
Are you leaving in?
View-only.
Basically, if I'm a Pro Plus, there may be times when I should function as a Pro, but I can't because I'm a Pro Plus. So if I initiate something, say an assignment, it's always going to function as a Pro Plus when I may not want it to.
So what he's talking about is the roles that are in the HR Pro Plus subcategory for the ACT module, which we'll go over a little bit later in the webinar, are auto approve and auto arrive. And when a user has those roles, any of the assignments that they create are going to be auto approved and auto arrive. So you need to be able to do both depending on what assignment type you're trying to execute. What he's saying is exactly right. You would give yourself the role and take the role away, respectively, for each action. So the design when those roles were created was that the personnel who have those roles need them for all of the assignments that they're executing. And so that's why it was designed like that. But there are, once we go, I'm going to show how we go through the roles matrix, and that's how you kind of identify where those things are in each one of the subcats. So you can see what each role does, understand what it does, and then make sure that it matches what your personnel in your state need. Okay. Any further questions or comments before we move forward? All right, so from this window, this is just a general user starting point. I am in the institutional training environment right now, so as we go into the ACT module, actually, you can, none of the data that will show is PII, it's all jumbled and mixed. But for navigation purposes, there's two ways to get to the IPPS-A resources. You can select this action bar, which will use the help option, or you can select the nav bar, in which will also generate the help block. So either one of those routes will get you to where we want to go. For today's demonstration, I'm just going to click here. I'm going to select View All, and it automatically will default to the IPPS-A Additional Help and Documents page. And so there are a lot of gold nuggets here, a lot of good information that has been consolidated and put together over the course of IPPS-A's basically being live and active. User guide being one of the biggest ones that just recently got updated here in October. The survival guide, I'm sure all of the live states are used to that. But what we're going to focus on right now is the Subcat roles matrix. So by selecting this, you'll get a download option, which you'll open. Minimize this one. Bring this out. All right, so this is the matrix that explains how the subcats and roles relate. So this top area here is the listing of all the current subcats that are available now in IPPS-A. And here on the left are the individual roles that make up these subcats. So just to kind of show the volume of functionality that's here, there's 308 roles currently in IPPS-A. So all of these roles, and this is to make it easier to manage for those validators to manage, are bundled into these subcats. So you can search, use this Excel to basically search by a particular subcat to see which roles are applicable to that subcat, or if you're more interested in what feature within IPPS-A it allows you to manage. So we're going to click assignments for today, since today's kind of assignments day. These are the roles associated with assignments that users will need to have depending on what their responsibilities are. Just to highlight, maintain assignments is one of the larger roles. It allows you to pretty much create, modify, revoke most things in assignments with a workflow process attached to it. And HR Pro Plus, if we look at what roles those have for assignment, so this is the lighter block here. So the mass update feature is only available for those users that have the Plus subcat along with the HR Pro subcat. So that's how we use this matrix to kind of just help guide users as far as what they want. Another thing to keep in mind is that
there are some features within the modules that require that require additional subcats that maybe a new user doesn't know that they need. So, for example, termination and discharge transactions, those assignments are created in ACT, but you would need the owner offboarding subcat or the casualty manager subcat in order to even create those assignments. So that is one thing just to keep in mind as well as you provision. So using the Epic as well as the features to just see what you really want to do, and then this description that gives a pretty good basic statement about what each role is, the functionality of each role. In addition to this, first tab is the person profile roles, and so this explains the different roles associated with person profile. And there's a few other tabs here that break it out and explain the different subcats and what you can get out of those features, as well as a breakout of FM10 functionality list as they also apply. So before I move, I want to also highlight on the resources page the Profile Management User Guide. So this user guide is broken into two sections. Section 1 shows by each tab in person profile what subcat and roles are required to update the content. And then for Section 2, it explains by subcat what can be updated and where the content is located in the tab. So just so you kind of can just get a picture of that, this is the level of detail our team has been able to put together to try to help users navigate the person profile and determine what they need to have in order to update the fields that we want. And all this is reiterated in this subcat role matrix as a one-stop shop for role management for validators. So prior to moving into the ACT portion, this concludes roles. Does anyone have any questions or comments that they'll like to share with the group? Any lessons learned? Chief Brown gave some good nuggets, but I know that there's a lot of users out there who are live in the system that may have some data they would like to share with the group. Right, nothing heard. So we are going to move into our ACT demonstration. Well, orientation. So first we're going to go into HR Pro. I am using a fake user that is essentially has all of the roles that's available. I did that just so that it'll be easier to navigate and to just show you like what full access looks like. Understanding that some of the fields that are available to users when they go into ACT will be dependent on their access levels. So first thing, here we go. Let me sign back in. And this is again another user. I'm going to reopen up our training site here. Bear with me. Looks like we're about to be a go. All right, so I'm going to go to HR Professional, because in this demonstration we're going to be looking at actually creating an assignment and what this looks like from the HR Professional's view. So just to give an overview, ACT means Assignment Coordination and Tracking. So this is the module that IPPS-A has provided where users can create and manage assignments for both individuals and groups. In this module, you can create permanent, also known as home assignments, as well as temporary assignments, which are typically known as host assignments. As well as you can do arrival and departure transactions, actually moving users around, as well as modifying assignments throughout the process of creation, and then up until, modifying them, and then also being able to curtail or extend as needed when they are actually assigned to that position. To the left of the screen, these are actually, like I said, dynamic fields that are available based on that HR profile, HR user's access. So Create Mass Update is one of those roles that is only available for HR Pro Plus. So unless you have HR Pro Plus, this will not be an option that you can even view. Assignments reports and gain and loss reports. These are both have some predefined queries in there that users can run. We did a webinar 2 weeks ago on the 21st that covers a few of these reports and how to run them. And we also have a demo video on our YouTube channel that runs through how to run these types of reports. But before I go further, I just wanted to give the audience another opportunity to chime in. Are there any live users that's on this call that has used any of these options, and do you have any comments that you would like to share with the group concerning its functionality and how you've used them in the past?
Hi, this is Chief Phillips from North Carolina. I just had more of a question. We are live in IPPS-A, and I was wondering if it is a functionality that could possibly be amended that would remove the requirement to curtail assignments prior to creating new ones. Could that add significant transaction time and routing action for us here in North Carolina?
Chief, it's Manager Meinholz. So we have received that enhancement request, or really that change request, and it's being adjudicated here at the program. I know that there's a lot of momentum behind that one, especially from you users out in the field to try to get that approved. So we're working on it here, more to follow.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thanks for that. Any other comments from the audience? Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and move forward with the demo. So for this demonstration, I'm just going to select a user that I've already kind of mapped out in the training environment. If we was in prog stage or in production, you could search by your soldier's employee ID, their name, last name, and we have multiple, fields that allow you to enhance your searches. Employee ID is probably the quickest way to get that one record that you're actually looking for. But we're going to just go ahead and type in an employee ID for this demo. Okay, so again, this is a false soldier. Just giving a brief overview of what the page looks like. Organizational instance and assignments are the two default sections of the main page when you log into ACT and you select a user. And typically, the organizational instance is going to be that soldier's home assignment. So we've also received some requests about changing that to meet whether the assignment that the soldier is currently on. So if they're in a host, making that organizational instance show the host assignment. That is also under review as something that we could potentially do in the future. But for now, generally, the organizational instance is going to show that soldier's home assignment, whether they are currently arrived to it or it's the one that they were arrived to prior to going to their host. The assignment section, the organizational instance section, displays the current soldier's HR and pay status, unit information, and position details. So it's just a snapshot of that soldier. Down here in the assignment section, if this soldier had a host assignment, you would see a 1 and 2 sequential numbers by as many host assignments as there. So 1, 2, 3, etc. if they have any temporary assignments. In this particular example, this soldier is only assigned to a home assignment, which is Alpha Company here, a permanent assignment. This shows you the assignment and the begin date. This assignment ID field is just a PeopleSoft generated value that populates every time an assignment is created. UIC, which everyone is familiar with. Department is a brief description of what type of unit that is. This tells you whether it's a perm or temporary assignment. And the details, which we're going to dig into next, gives you in-depth information about that particular assignment. And the detail, and then you have the other options, other actions field. So this is also another dynamic field that is in IPPS-A that will only show actions available based on the assignment status. So if you are arrived to a status, you will get different other actions options versus if it's a draft or if it is pending approval, or if it is approved and pending arrival. So the other actions option will give you a wide variety of things. So this one, he's arrived, so you can only, at this point, add an attachment, which is basically supporting documents to it if we wanted to curtail or extend the assignment in preparation for another assignment, and then update loss reason code or rec step. All right. There are 3 assignment types built into ACT: conditional release, permanent assignments, and temporary assignments. So conditional release assignments are typically used to create an assignment for a soldier that is pending a separation or discharge. Permanent, as I stated earlier, is that soldier's home assignment, and temporary are host assignments that either may or may not be putting a person on an active duty status or EADT assignment, or it just could be a simple, you're going to support a mission in another unit and we need to attach you to that unit. We are going to look at some of the, first let's go ahead and look at details. So when you click the details tab for any assignment that's listed in that assignment section of the home page, then you will be immediately taken to the assignment details page. So this gives you a snapshot of what that soldier is doing in this particular assignment. So it tells you the action reason. So this is this soldier's initial home assignment. And it's of note, you should never be creating a PCA INT in ACT unless you're trying to, maybe correct some cutover stuff. But PCA INT automatically populates based on the higher actions, which is done in the onboarding side of the house. So if you are doing a PCA action, it would be one of the other reason codes that are associated with that, and we'll cover that briefly in the next few minutes or so. With the assignment details tab, you can't see it here, and when we go through create assignment, you'll see how it populates. But there's about 6 fields that are always required in order to create an assignment. And all of these fields are typically, again, dynamic. So you'll start off with selecting the action reason, well, at least the action, and then you'll select the begin date, projected end date, then you'll select the reason, and once you select that, the rest of these fields kind of populate so that you can continue with adding the data. So position number is a big one. The options that you'll have available to choose are supposed to be the only positions that are available. So if someone is slotted in a position that you want to put this new soldier in, it will not show until that position is actually available based on the dates that you have decided to slot this soldier. In addition, duty position qualification is one of those fields that are always required when you're creating an assignment. And then if you're creating a separation assignment, you'll also be required to add the assignment loss reason code, which directly affects that person's pay and benefits as the assignment is completed. Looking at the departure tab, this would show you the departure history associated with this particular assignment. So when you go into ACT and you're making adjustments to someone's assignments, and let's say you have to depart them and then re-arrive them or any of that nature, every time you depart from this particular assignment, it will give you a history. So here, the soldier had not been departed yet, so there's no history seen. Arrive kind of gives you a picture of what that will look like. So the same rules apply for arrival as it does for departure. In this case, the soldier was arrived at this particular date and time group. And so if I had to re-arrive them for any reason, then it will create another row just showing that history. And this is where, a little bit of that transparency and audibility comes into play with ACT. This tab is a tab that we are not using right now. It will be available in Release 3, and we'll be putting out more guidance as to, what needs to go here, but it's here just as a placeholder, but not active. When creating an assignment, this tab is one of two, so assignment details and instructions. Both contain fields that are required input in order to create an assignment. So the authority ID is that big thing. So that's the regulatory guidance that controls or governs the action that's being done. And so it is important that users do their due diligence with selecting the correct regulation that corresponds with the action that they are completing, the assignment that's being done, because this will appear on the orders, and we do want to make sure that those orders align, again, for audibility going forward. For separation type of assignments, and in some special assignments, you may be required to add instructions as well. But for the most part, this is the only field that you have to complete in order to create an assignment. The Attachments tab, this is just a place where you can provide additional supporting documents for that assignment. It is not a requirement, it's optional. So if you have an assignment that you're creating that does require some type of supporting document, it makes sense to add it, you can add it here. It will be saved and visible to all those that click into the details of the assignment. Eligibility is another one of those tabs that's not active, will be active in Release 3. So we're going to move forward. Now this Orders tab, will show you the history of orders as it pertains to this assignment. So this assignment was created, there's been no amendments made, so there's one row. If you select View Order, this is an example of what the orders will look like. So it tells you the day it was created, like I staged this data yesterday. So that's why it says for December. UIC, position number, the authority ID or that regulation will appear here, and then also the effective date, begin date of that assignment, as well as some other details in here. And so whenever an order is amended, you will get another set of orders upon approval. So the orders will not be present until the workflow is approved for this assignment. Comments. So comments are not required when you're creating, but they are required when you do any modifications to an assignment. So if you do any curtailment or extension actions, if you modify it before a person has been arrived to it, anything in the other actions section after the assignment has been done will generally require you to put some type of brief statement concerning what you did and why in this section. It'll be your unit SOP as to how in-depth these comments need to be, but as long as something goes in, IPPS-A will allow you to continue. And now approvals. So again, the user that I selected to create this assignment just for example purposes had the auto-arrive, auto-approve role because that was considered a super user. They had everything. So no approvals is required here. But if I did not, then there would be a workflow that is built by each unit and dictated by each unit, and it would show who approved it and when, if that was required. Return, take me back. Yep, so it takes me back. All right, so before I go into a quick demo of creating an assignment in ACT, I'm going to create a position assignment or a position change. Are there any comments, questions or comments from the field about anything that's been seen so far or that you just are thinking about right now? Right? Nothing heard. So I'm going to go ahead and select permanent assignment to start. I'm actually going to run through a couple action reads and codes just to kind of clarify some things. So when you select a permanent assignment, these are the four types, reasons for the assignment that are available in IPPS-A. So a PCA, position change, termination, and transfer. So these are all associated with the home assignment. If I select PCA as my action, I'm just going to pick a generic day real quick. Let's use date not allowed. Oh, hold on, let me go back. So that's one nice thing about IPPS-A. It will require you to make sure you have your dates in order. Let's go through this action first. So let's go ahead and curtail this assignment so that I can go through the scenario. So right now the end date of this assignment is October 31st, 2020. And so we're going to change it to the end date till 12/4. And so this is what the chief was just talking about for North Carolina, was this trying to get away from doing this option. That is coming potentially, but for now you have to curtail assignments prior to creating the new assignment. And for those that do not have auto approve, it will go through workflow, and that's just a means of validating that this is what we actually want done. We want this, someone else is validating that this assignment needs to be curtailed. We're going to go to 2019 and select December 4th, so to yesterday. Add a comment. Click submit. Because I have auto approve, it's not going to take me to workflow. It'll just go ahead and approve the assignment. Right. Click return. It'll take me back to my home screen. And so now I'm clear to start an assignment the following day. So assignments should be sequential in the dates. So you should not be having too many assignments that overlap unless it's a temp overlapping a perm. But permanent assignments won't have the same. You will not have multiple permanent assignments at the same time. Okay. We're going to try again with the PCA reason. I'm just going to select today, and this is really just to show the types of reasons that are associated with a PCA. So you have an intra-command move available, intra-unit with different duty, and initial assignment. So again, initial assignment, PCA, INT, that comes from the onboarding. You can complete these other two as needed. You have a soldier that needs to move for these particular reasons. These are available for you. All right, let's use a different. So we are going to do a pos. So position changes will automatically give you the reason of position change. There's no other reason associated with that action. All right, let's just do a quick overview of the term and discharge because we do have a little bit of difference. So for terminations, if you have that subcat that allows you to terminate a soldier, you have three options available for you. And if you are doing a transfer, you really only have two. So these first two assignments, because this is a training environment, the updates are a little delayed. But in production right now, transfer DEA and transfer to reserve component category have been removed. So users will only be able to use the transfer action and associated with a interstate transfer or an intercomponent transfer. So to go back to what we were initially trying to do here is we're going to do a pos. So we're going to go ahead and select a start and end date. Typically your end date will be your ETS or MRD date, but if, let's say, the position that you are going to assign this person to expires before this date, so in a sense like the info concerning that position is no longer available out through the end date or that person's ETS date, for example, then you would have to scale it back. Typically what we encourage users to do is go 2 MTOs out. So honestly, I would want to go to 2021, for example, and try, the end of September, right before it changes, and select that as my projected end date. If my ETS or MRD is out, let's say 30 years. And if this doesn't work based on the position number, because again, that position may expire before this date, then just go back a year, and usually that's all that's required.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like the position changes based on the end date, but it certainly does based on the begin date. What you can see will change based on the begin date.
Yes, it will do that as well. You're absolutely right. I'm gonna try to select a position if it allows me here. And out again. Okay, here we go. Okay, so just for ease, I'm just going to put in the rank. So this person is the E5. So I'm just going to type in sergeant to narrow down the search. In a typical unit, you will not have this many options, but we're going to move this person from the top fire team leader position that they're currently in and reslot them as an assistant squad leader. Okay. And here is that other field, the data qualification field that is required. And go over here, select the appropriate regulation for this particular move. And from this window, you can either select Submit, or you can go back to the assignment details. Just do a once-over and make sure everything is in place. And then, if so, you can save it as a draft if you need to return to it, or you can press Submit. In this case, I'm going to go ahead and press Submit. Let it funnel through. Okay. Now, as I return, I now have two assignments there. The one that, and because I have auto arrived, it went ahead and arrived this person, but probably should have used one that didn't have auto arrive. But essentially, if I did not have the auto arrive role, then this soldier would have still been arrived to this first assignment here. It would have said arrived here, and down here would have just said approved. And then I would have had to go to my other actions to actually arrive. First, I would have to depart from the previous assignment, and then once I departed them, arrive them to this assignment. But this is also good because it kind of can show you too the dynamic fields that are available. So here it is. This assignment is completed, so I only have two options now. Versus this assignment that the person is currently arrived on, I have a few options that I can do. So if I made an error, I could revoke the arrival if needed to correct it. If I needed to depart the member back to the previous assignment. There's some of these will apply depending on the situation and what needs to happen with that assignment. But we'll be getting into a little more scenario-based instruction in the upcoming weeks as we, continue to work through the problems and the defects that are currently out there that you users are letting us know. But going forward, we'll have some detailed training on some of those specific scenarios as to why you would use certain options. But that actually concludes the demo portion of particular training. And so this is just a recap of what we covered today, both for roles and for the orientation to ACT. I would like to take this time to hear from each of you in the audience. ACT is one of those modules that is new and it's different. And so the way that we use it will vary by state and SOP. But please let us know what kind of issues and concerns and questions that you're having so that we can ensure that we put the proper training tools out there and resources out there for you, and also, work those potential defects to make it easier for the users. So I would like to open the line now for any questions or comments. This concludes the formal portion of today's webinar. Thank you for attending. We will keep the conference open again for about 15 minutes for additional questions to be posted. Feel free to send any questions or comments to the IPPS-A mailbox that is listed on the screen. Please also visit our IPPS-A social media pages and subscribe to our YouTube channel for future webinar postings, functional videos, and news from the IPPS-A team. Thank you again for joining.